Granblue Fantasy Relink is the first major AAA RPG from Japanese developer Cygames, first established in 2011. As a game from a somewhat newer gaming studio, I must say that this studio really outdid themselves because Relink is actually a highly competent and fun, keyword fun, RPG. I want to highlight that word fun because that's what this game was ultimately designed to be. Something that's lost on many video game development studios today is that they try and gear their games to a specific audience all the while alienating everyone else. The Souls games, anybody? What Cygames has done here is that they've not only made a game that's easy for anyone to pick up, a rather impressive feat considering the number of playable characters in this game, but they've also made something that goes against the standards of what an RPG typically is. The industry standard for an RPG game is anywhere from 20 to 30 hours. That number has been increasingly raised over the years exponentially to absurd levels. Now we have games that want to be 60 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours, 130 hours, just for the main story alone, not even counting the supplemental content. As a grown person with responsibilities, this is highly irregular and distasteful up to the point of it being impossible. This is especially annoying if you want to play multiple games a year, as most players typically do. Granblue Fantasy Relink says, fuck all that. I'm going to have you in and out in less than half the time than a typical modern RPG. Beyond that, I'm going to place emphasis on in-game content to keep you around, but the interesting thing is that the game doesn't overstay its welcome like many modern RPGs. Your time as a result will be respected, seems to be the mission statement from this studio. Words can't express how much I appreciated this approach. Granblue Fantasy Relink is literally 12 hours long. After you complete the game, you are handed an extra chapter to go through, along with a quest hub to engage in either with online active players via PvP or PvE with offline bots as your companions. The quests are numerous, but because they are kept to a short length, you can complete one within literally a few minutes. They also come in different varieties, which include survival and boss rush challenges. Because of the short length, they can be binged, which actually makes them more engaging. That's not to say there aren't typical side quests from a more traditional RPG. You do have side quests, but they each literally devolve into simple item checklist hunts. The focus here for the in-game content are the quests, which greatly works in the game's favor. Story-wise, Relink is rather straightforward. You play as members of an airship crew who comes under attack. One of your key members is kidnapped, and you spend the rest of the game trying to get her back. That's the story in a nutshell. Because the game's pacing is breakneck fast, there isn't too much opportunity for the player to actually get to know the characters. The game tries to remedy this fault with these character fate stories, and while I appreciate the attempt, the effort here is severely lacking. The fate stories are boring slideshows with an occasional mission thrown in, and none of them really deviate from each other from a gameplay perspective. It's an extremely boring way to learn more about the characters that the developers could have devoted more time into. This is especially considering that there's one for each of the 21 playable characters in here. Good concept, poor execution. Regarding the story, going back to it, the dialogue is atrociously awful, seemingly written at times for those under the age of 7. What's more, the game is filled with typical anime cliches, but it's never anything that rises to the point of frustration and anger. The writing isn't something that truly grated on my nerves or my patience to mark against the game as a whole, but it's a weak point nonetheless. Because of how short the story is and the fact that it doesn't wear out its welcome, it makes it easier to forgive the low points of the narrative. It also helps that the game has fantastic production values, with a greater focus on presentation. Everything from the beautiful art style to fantastic art direction makes this game easily stand out from its anime RPG contemporaries. It's a very pretty game to look at. The characters are well animated. The performance on PC is butter smooth, and it makes the entire experience all the more enjoyable. While there's much to like about this game, the best part of Granblue Fantasy Relink is easily the combat system. Finally, there's a foreign company that's made a JRPG that's not Square Enix, that's a real-time action game, that makes something that's nearly perfect. The combat system in this game is the highlight by and far. Presented as a 4-man squad-based party, you choose one character for a mission, and you engage in various waves of enemies unrestricted. There's not a severe restricting vicinity that you can't go outside of, like Tales of Arise. There's not really any severe damage sponge enemies, maybe with the exception of the hardest difficulty setting on Manic and Proud, and only with select bosses, but those things aren't accessible until late in the game, where the player is expected to be of a higher level anyway. Support items such as potions are replenished for you in each battle, so there's not really any real item management unlike most RPGs. The focus here is entirely on the combat itself. There's 21 playable characters in the game, 2 of them being paid DLC add-ons. What's great about the combat system are the characters themselves. Every character has a unique moveset, their own set of up to 4 skills that can be equipped and swapped out in between combat encounters, with a specific element attached to each character, be it wind, fire, dark, so on and so forth. Not only do the characters play different from each other, but each character has a unique skill that further enhances their own playstyle, further emphasizing depth. For example, my favorite character in the game, the katana-wielding Narmaya, has 2 stances. A flutter stance that focuses on quick rapid strikes, and a slower samurai stance that focuses on power. That playstyle is specific to her only. The other 20 playable characters in the game have their own unique traits that makes them stand out from the rest, and that's important for a game that has this many playable characters. I've personally not seen anything like this with this many characters in any RPG I've played. It's very unique. Furthermore, the combat system places emphasis not on any individual character, but the entire team as a whole. The point is to execute these team-coordinated attacks called links. Links have different effects in battle. If you link an attack through filling this blue stagger bar over a target's head with all 4 members of your party in quick succession, a limited slowdown effect known as link time on the target takes place. If you build your Skybound Arts or SBA meter, you can perform an ultimate attack. This can be initiated by either yourself or your AI companions. If all characters initiate their SBA attack in rapid succession, a party ultimate attack known as Chain Burst takes place. Chain Burst attacks have special element properties such as wind or fire, which is determined by the character that initiated their SBA attack first. You can set your AI companions to either hold their SBA attack or use them as soon as they're available. The AI companions are very competent in the game. They will use support skills only when necessary, whether it's healing spells or providing buffs to the entire party. They're very aggressive if you have a particular character equipped purely with offensive skills. And you don't have to worry about the AI using any support items because only the player has control over that. Combine this with stat buff items, known as sigils, that can be equipped to every character, several each that can also be upgraded on their own, and you have a very robust combat system that's highly customizable and can be played in dozens of different ways. Defensively, you can block and dodge attacks, including the many AoE attacks that the bosses are given. The combat system, once you get it down, is very easy to the point where it's almost impossible to get a game over. Once a character's health drops to 0, they're put in a stunned state, and a red party health bar starts to slowly deplete. You mash a button to get back into the action where your stats are fully replenished. Some RPG players may find this system to be too forgiving, but I personally like it because it shows that the game is focused on getting the player back into the action. Again, it's focused entirely on fun. It's not designed to frustrate the player, and there's a good degree of challenge to it. You still have to pay attention to what you're doing at all times, so it's not this hand-holding thing where you're treated as a child. The combat system in this game is beyond fantastic. It's easily the best system I've seen from an ARPG, JRPG, aside from the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and in some ways, it's better than even that. The only thing that's missing here is active character switching. There is no character switching mechanic in combat. I'm baffled as to how, despite everything that the developers included, that they didn't put in character switching. You can only switch characters in between combat encounters. That's the one downside here, but it's far from something that actively hurts the game itself. All in all, Granblue Fantasy Relink is a good game. It's a simple, fun experience that's not drawn out. It knows how to pull back and respect the player's time. As a result, it's a highly unorthodox RPG that we really don't see. This game could have easily been a free-to-play game with gacha mechanics, but it's not. It's a full-pay AAA JRPG with some class. And that's what ultimately makes it stand out.
So smooth.